Hello everybody and welcome to a chat from the engineering desk. Today we're going to be talking about IoT using the Arduino MKR1010 and a DHT11 temperature and humidity sensor. I'm going to show you how it's wired up, how we configure the sketch, what the dashboard looks like where the reporting of the values and the graphing is done, and how that's set up. So let's talk about the circuitry. It's straightforward. Over here is our Arduino. Got the 3.3 volts connected to the DHT11 positive pin. Got a 10K pull-up to the signal pin. The signal pin is connected to pin 6 on the Arduino, and then we got 0 volts or ground connected to the Arduino. So that over there is our circuit for the thing. It's very simple. Right, so what we've got here is the web page for IoT Cloud. And as you can see, I've got my dashboard which shows the temperature outside my house, what is the humidity. Those are the values from the DHT11, and below are the graphs for the last 24 hours. So hovering over, one can see what the values were. Graphing is quite nice. At the moment the humidity doesn't change much because we are in the middle of winter and it's snowing most of the time. So let's have a look at how this works. Let's go to things. It is where you set stuff up. So over here is our MKR1010. Now I've got two values which are being reported from it. On the right, I'll give it a name, and that was a random name, but that would be, say, temperature. The declaration for the code, and then how frequently the IoT interrogates the MKR1010 to update the values. And the same for this one over here. Now let's have a look at the sketch. So the include file is going to be this information over here, which is the Wi-Fi name and the password. That's the information contained in secrets.h, because the Arduino needs to access the Wi-Fi because it needs internet access. There's two other include files that we use here. We got the DHT and wire.h, which is a one-wire communication. We tell it that the DHT is a type 11, and then we tell it which pin we've used on the Arduino, which is pin 6. So that becomes a constant DHT pin 6 type 11. There's some additional stuff in the sketch from playing around, but the relevant stuff is further down. We We can use this to send for serial debugging, so the serial port is active. DHT begin, which initializes the sensor, and then it waits a second and a half. That's a value in milliseconds, 1500. Init properties is part of that initialization of the sensor. Then it connects to the cloud. Over here, if we wanted to, we could do stuff, send stuff out on the serial comms, telling us what's going on with the connections and so on. But the important stuff with the two values, temperature and humidity, is happening here in the loop, which is where we got a floating point value being returned for humidity and a floating point value being returned for temperature. So we got H and we got T. Those are the values returned by the sensor, and then their names become wind speed and wind angle. That's not used at this stage. I had a soil moisture probe connected to it at one stage, which is why it was reporting an analog value as well. So going back to our setup, wind angle would be our temperature and wind speed is our humidity. There we can see the values. If you want to add a variable, you've got to give it a name. You choose a type of variable, whether it's a boolean, a floating point, and so on. And then the permissions, of course, one can control stuff remotely by having buttons on the dashboard. So let's go back to the dashboard. So there's just a few more things we need to talk about here. Right now we're in the view mode. If I go to the edit mode, the buttons pops up called add, and this is where your widgets live. Right? And there's our thing, which it knows about. We've got our variables. So if you wanted to add a widget, you wanted a slider, and we link that variable to temperature. And let's set it up like that. So there's a slider indicating temperature. Now I can change the name. As well, so we understand what's going on there. So there's a slider and in fact what I can now do is remove that, range widgets, move things around a bit. Can make that widget a bit bigger. And you say done. And there we have our dashboard. So now you basically got a slider for your temperature. That's how the widgets work. Over here for the graphs, you can choose between simple lines or just lines. Data point interpolation, if you with SP line, it rounds things, it makes it easy to look at, makes it easy on the eye. You don't have sharp edges, so I like it like that. That's graphing. Now with the paid subscription, the data gets stored for longer, and you can also download data from these graphs as a comma delimited Excel sheet for personal use. I've currently got the free subscription open here, so that's why I've got 24 hours of data. That's what it looks like. And I would say, go back to that, that's pretty much it as far as the little weather station that I've got at home goes. How you set it up, an overview of how the code works. We haven't looked at editing the code and so on, nor have we looked at templates. That's something for a different video. Anyhow, wrapping up, I hope that this was an insight into how this works, informative. Somebody wanted to learn something, benefited from this, inspired you to do your own. Have a wonderful day further. See you in the next one. Cheers.